it's actually funny. It was December 18th. I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was an admirer. But we don't need to go into that, I guess.
Well, that's... okay, let's get back to it. We'll circle back to that.
So, spoiler alert, Nick and Tucker never circle back on that, and that's one of the clips from this interview where people keep pulling that up and saying, oh, Nick said he's a supporter of Stalin, he's a supporter of Stalin, what does that mean? Stalin is a very controversial figure. I am personally not a fan of Stalin. There's lots of evidence that Stalin and the Soviet Union killed more people during World War II than any other regime involved in that conflict. The numbers aren't well documented from Stalin. It's like literally between it's like 3 million and 60 million. I mean, it's a huge gap. You really have a situation of the fox in charge of the chicken coop on that one. You're talking about the 1940s Soviet government keeping track of what happened at the time. But Stalin was responsible for a huge famine in the Ukraine, one of the largest wheat producers in Europe. It's like Europe's breadbasket, the Ukraine, and they couldn't get food for a while, and that was an artificial famine brought on by Stalin and the Soviet Union to I don't know to what end, but it did kill lots of people, and Stalin is looked at as kind of a genocidal maniac. You want to talk? We'll just go on a thing here. The ideology that has killed the most people, bar none, is communism. You talk about Stalin, the Soviet Union, Vietnam, Mao Zedong in China, and the Cultural Revolution. Communism has killed so many people. But here's what's interesting: to be called a fascist, to be called a Nazi, to be called Hitler is like toxic. Like, we view that as like one of the worst. Like, oh, the fascist. Fascism to me has no real threat, because like if you come out as a politician and you say I'm a fascist, I think we need a far right military ethno state, no one's gonna follow you. Everyone's gonna be like, that guy's a kook, right? But if you come out and you say, I'm a socialist or I'm a communist, that still has broad appeal. It pulls at people's heartstrings. And communism is still very much alive today. There are people that advocate for communism here in this country freely, right? You could walk around wearing a shirt with a hammer and a sickle on it, or a picture of Che Guevara's face, and it be fine, And that's something that I find very interesting, because communism is extremely, extremely dangerous. You have to understand that communism in practice cannot achieve its goals without brutal government crackdowns, without rounding people up that don't agree with the message and executing them. Now, why does Nick Fuentes support Stalin? I'm not sure. But one thing that I could say is Stalin rapidly industrialized Russia. He took a country that was mostly... Russia's always been pretty backwards, but at the time the feudal system had lasted in Russia much, much longer than it lasted in Europe. The story that I hear is that the Russian peasants were much more spaced out. Russia's very big, and information and can't move as fast as it did in Europe. Newspapers and print and ideas just didn't move as fast in Russia as it did everywhere else. So Russia lagged behind a little bit. And there has been an argument made that nobody besides someone like a Joseph Stalin could have industrialized Russia like he did. And if Russia hadn't industrialized, if Russia had stayed a country of peasants or whatever, they would have been completely overrun by the Germans in World War II. Okay, and they almost were. They made it pretty far into Russia. They came on the very famously the gates of Moscow, Stalingrad, and Leningrad. They were right there. And if Russia if Stalin had not brutally industrialized Russia in the 1920s, it would have been very disastrous for Russia would have been defeated in World War II by the Germans. So that could be one reason why Nick Fuentes says he's a fan, quote, of Joseph Stalin. Now, me personally, if I came on a show like this, Tucker Carlson interview, and I had some sort of view like that, would I say I'm a fan of Joseph Stalin? No, probably not, because there's an argument to be made that nobody has killed more people than Joseph Stalin in the entire history of the world. Maybe Genghis Khan. But I would not say I'm a fan of Stalin. But that clip of Fuentes is very controversial, and I just wanted to provide some context there for you.